Dear viewers, welcome to the weekly roundup featuring cool indie games, new unknown titles, patch news and releases. If you like this content, consider subscribing. I'm making a roundup every single week. You can like the video for the algorithm or leave a comment with some feedback or a cool indie game I should check out. Thanks for joining, let's dive in. Starting with reveals and announcements. This week may have been one of the biggest weeks in video games news ever, but I am really not interested in covering industry news. I would much rather focus on the games themselves, so I will keep doing this. I'm following the news, but I'm not going to cover it. So what will we cover? Well, the headline of the series, ladies and gentlemen, Wolcen released their next big update in true Wolcen style. No communication in advance whatsoever. No communication after the patch dropped, nothing. Reason that I knew this patch was there in the first place is because I keep the game installed, because I know that is the only way to get notified if there is new content, because you can't expect a game that sold millions of copies and worked for months on a new patch to actually communicate the release date, right? I mean, it's too much to ask, let's be honest. So I have found it to be much easier to just keep Wolcen installed, and then when I start up Steam and I see a 10 GB patch, I know the next update has arrived. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. If this was the first time this happened, I would have believed the excuses on the Discord. If this was the second time happening, maybe I would have believed the excuses on the Discord, but this is standard operating procedure for Wolcen by now. They just drop patches without communication, without patch notes. If you're lucky, the next day or so they might post something, but sometimes they just don't. Enough talk about the horrible marketing though. What is in the patch? Well, if I had patch notes at the moment of writing or recording, I could tell you. Instead, I played the game for like 4 hours and there is a new endgame with a war table giving you several missions, a whole new-ish progression system with a new coat of paint, and so far I must say it is quite enjoyable, but I can't really tell if anything else changed or is supposed to be changed. So I will tell you what I will do after I finish recording and publishing the roundup. I will just play this patch for the rest of the day and I'll make a gameplay slice about it, which I will try to release as soon as possible, most likely tomorrow evening. It also gives you a decent overview of the options and the missions, because it seems there isn't too much variety so far, but I will hold my conclusions until further notice. ANVIL did a live stream in which they have announced their roadmap, and it contains a heap of great changes. In January, 3 difficulties will be added to make the game playable for more audiences, such as the filthy casuals like me. Right now, the game is borderline hardcore and even the second galaxy out of the 3 is pretty much impossible to complete. So this is going to be a welcome change. Furthermore, you will be able to dash while using skills which should help you dodge attacks. Debuffs on bosses will be displayed as well. To improve communications between players, a ping or icon system is added. In February, we get a new Vault Breaker, Quake. He is a fighter with a drill. Also, the Season Pass rewards will be greatly increased, which is necessary because it takes ages currently. In March, the first season launches. A great change the devs made here is that your earned relics of previous seasons are no longer reset. The game is all about unlocking relics, similar to other roguelite games like Slay the Spire or Dead Cells, and the original idea was to wipe all those relics at the start of the new season. This caused a lot of backlash in the community, and now they have reverted this change. The season furthermore brings a journey mode where you go on a journey to various planets, and at the end of it a special reward awaits you. There is a Vault Breaker specific relic available which completely overhauls one of your skills. I really like this idea. In June, Season 2 launches, which brings another new breaker type, the Swordsman. Furthermore, the Toy Workers, which are your pets, get an overhaul, making them much more active in battle. They will be able to revive players, drop health packs and so on. In September and December, Season 3 and 4 launch. I must say that all of this sounds very promising. ANVIL is already a great game. It runs smooth, the combat is fun and exciting, there is a lot of variety in the breakers, and if the game gets more accessible after these upcoming changes, I feel there is a lot to enjoy here. Book of Travels, the tiny multiplayer online RPG, doesn't only have a unique approach and art style to making an online game, they also had permadeath. In an online game, Imagine this in World of Warcraft, that would be pretty hilarious. These devs actually implemented it, and now they elaborated a bit on the concept of death in video games. A topic not that often discussed, I feel. The devs want death to be a meaningful experience, which means that it should not be taken lightly. This makes sense. One could argue that in real life, death ultimately gives meaning to life, and people experiencing death or are confronted with it often make very different decisions than the ones that are not. In Book of Travels, death is an essential ingredient and should pose a sense of danger. What is most likely going to happen in terms of game design is that characters can still die. This can be witnessed as well by other players, and they then get a special quest related to mourning and loss. When you die, you become a ghost, and you can travel the world as a ghost and interact with other ghosts of other dead players. Ultimately, you can get resurrected as well using a special quest, and I think this is a really interesting game design actually. It is exemplary as well for Book of Travels, a game bringing a whole lot of new ideas, maybe even sometimes too many new ideas, making the game so niche that it's hard to find a player base for it. I am not sure this whole death concept in-game is a good call, but I found it interesting enough to share it with you in the roundup. Stalker 2, the highly anticipated sequel to the highly janky Stalker game, is delayed till December 8th, 2022. The game was supposed to launch in April, but apparently 7 more months of development time are required. You can say whatever you want, but that is not just some finishing touches and polishing that needs to happen here. There is a lot more going on, and this could be a bad sign. The game had to deal with a massive backlash regarding their plans to put NFTs in the game, which caused such an outrage from the fans that the studio decided to cancel those plans the next day. Still, that might have impacted development, because who knows how far they already were with developing and integrating these NFTs, which now need to be removed again. This whole NFT game system could potentially even include entire game design mechanics. Despite this news, I'm interested in the game. I've played Stalker for many hours and most of its spiritual successors as well, like Metro. All of them are very atmospheric, unique games, featuring a great narrative and an immersive world that is both recognizable but also alien in many ways. These were all excellent games, and I would like to experience another world like this, without a bunch of game-breaking bugs, please. So I hope the devs get the time they need. Diplomacy is not an option released their first 2.5-minute gameplay teaser. This city builder tower defense swarm of monsters attacking your village game is releasing in early access on February 9th. Imagine being a bored king in your low polygon kingdom, because all this mayhem needs to be calculated at some point. What do you do to entertain yourself? Exactly, you incite a whole bunch of riots and protests. And then what do? Exactly, you line up the catapults, position your army in front of the gates, raise the barricades and slaughter everyone who stands against your leadership. In this case, angry farmers. Oh, you can drop meteors as well. It's a great story. There's a demo available as well on Steam, and this just looks like a lot of fun. I enjoy the simplistic graphical style. You can still make out individual buildings, but it's kinda cute that the models consist of like these low polygon numbers. Finally, the ragdoll physics are simply top notch. It's unclear how you summon a meteor as a king exactly, but once you do and you see everyone flying away like this, I am sure these moments will be very satisfying in game. There's a Steam event going on right now you might be interested in. The event is called the Big Adventure Event. It is organized by publisher HitSense, not sponsored of course, and the event features a whole heap of indie adventure games like this one, Bramble. Expect gameplay, dev Q&A, special announcements, demos and more. You know, your typical Steam event stuff, but now for some super niche, mostly indie games, which I think is great. It runs from yesterday to the 24th of January. There's a broadcast schedule available and I will leave a link down below. You're welcome. Proceeding with the Patch Plaza, bringing an overview of patch news, ENCASED is soon releasing another content patch. This successfully kickstarted indie game is set in a sci-fi apocalyptic world where the discovery of a bunch of alien relics has turned locations on Earth into entire research centers, where all sorts of strange things are happening. The patch adds 2 new locations to the world, a crashed cargo airplane, the Fallen Fortress, and the mysterious caves. Here you will find new enemies, equipment, treasures and mysteries of the wastelands. Vehicles get an overhaul, allowing you to either blow up or repair any vehicle you find, which is a great feature. You can then use these vehicles to drive between several locations. You can steal vehicles as well, but if you do, expect some issues with the law. Additional settings for larger monitors are implemented with bigger fonts. And last but not least, more gamepad support. I've come to appreciate gamepad support more and more in video games, since I am playing so many of them. I might check out this update. Since the game fully launched to its 1.0 version, I haven't played it too much, so I'm curious to enjoy the final product. This is an amazing game though, because early access, which I played a lot of, was already really good. Then releases. Another really quiet week. There is nothing releasing next week that I'm interested in, at least. Time for some personal updates then. What have I been up to? I've been playing a few games actually, starting with Chorus, an amazing narrative-driven arcade space shooter. Maybe not the genre my audience is typically interested in, but I think it's a great and underrated game, and you can expect a gameplay slice about this one soon. It is already done, just needs to be published. Another very cute indie game I absolutely love so far is Vampire Survivors, where you are the bullet hell yourself. You slowly have to upgrade randomly generated arsenals of weapons in order to survive 30 minutes of total mayhem, and it's great fun. Also here, I recorded a gameplay slice to give you a better insight. I was given a key for Striving for Light, an early access ARPG with a beautiful art style, but unfortunately that was the only thing this game really has going for it. There is a randomly generated skill tree, which sounds fun on paper, but isn't that great in practice, and this game is just one of those 2 early access games. I'm going to give the devs some feedback via email, wait a good while and revisit this later. And that's it. If you have any questions or remarks, put them in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did and you want more like this, consider liking the video or even subscribing. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. Love you all. See you all soon. Bye bye.